move on and talk about West Ham United. Pete, there's been ongoing talks. It sounds like they might become more advanced today, potentially with Nicholas Füllkrug at Borussia Dortmund. Have you got an update, please, on that and his potential valuation that West Ham are going to have to pay?
Yeah, we know West Ham have been looking to bring in a striker all summer, but haven't been able to find the right player just yet. Jon Duran at Villa seems to be the one, but the two clubs couldn't agree a fee on that one. So it seems they have moved on to Nicholas Füllkrug from Borussia Dortmund. Obviously, he had a very good season with Dortmund last year, helping them reach the Champions League final, scoring 3 goals on the way. Was unlucky not to score in that final against Real Madrid as well. Then he's had a decent Euros with Germany as well, when he's got 2 goals for the host nation as well. But yeah, I think real smart move this could be by West Ham. I'm a big fan of Füllkrug. He looks like your typical old school forward. He's puts himself about. Real target man, which we don't see too many more of any in the Premier League. But I think he's got all the attributes to be a success in England. And with 2 years left on his deal at Dortmund, it does seem the German club could consider cashing in on him. So I think there's talk of around maybe a fee of around 13 to 15 million pounds. I think that's relatively cheap. Although he's not getting any younger, Füllkrug, I think he still could do a job for somebody like a West Ham for a couple of seasons. And he would definitely add an extra dimension to that West Ham forward line under Julen Lopetegui if a deal can be agreed. So for me, this move, if it does happen, does tick a lot of boxes, because I think Füllkrug is very underrated, and I think he could definitely offer something to the Premier League and to West Ham.
Paul, what do you make of that potential move for him, and how many goals would he expect to score next season if he is to sign?
Well, listen, they're looking for a number 9, aren't they? They have been for a while. Mikel Antonio obviously has led the line for a while. But Füllkrug, he's done it at Dortmund last year, 15 goals in 43 in all competitions, 12 goals in 29 in the league. But actually for Germany, 13 and 21, which is a really good record. And like Pete says, he's an old school number 9. He's a proper 6'2" striker. And he gives West Ham an opportunity to play in a different way. He'll be a danger from set plays. And I like him. I think Kai Havertz obviously started a lot of the games in the Euros, but he played, he's come on, he scores goals. But there's obviously a certain type of striker, because we're hearing that West Ham are looking at Milik as well, aren't we? From Juve, the Polish striker. I mean, Füllkrug's 31, Milik's 30, both very, very similar. Milik not in the plans of new manager Thiago Motta. Both very, very experienced at leading the line. West Ham are clearly looking for somebody to lead the line and allow those creative players in behind. In a similar way, Arsenal did years ago with Giroud. Giroud played him as a 9. He occupied the centre halves, and the damage was really done by the players and the intricacy of the quality in behind. So there's definitely a profile of striker that West Ham are looking for at the moment.
And moving on, Pete, we know that there's been talk about Aaron Wan-Bissaka. Is the deal getting closer now than we previously discussed on the podcast?
Yeah, I think there's a willingness from both clubs to try and get this deal done. Again, probably the stumbling block for this one is Aaron Wan-Bissaka. Does he want to make that move to West Ham? There has been suggestions he fancies a possible move abroad. There has been a bit of interest from Inter Milan and others as well. So I don't think Wan-Bissaka right now is rushing in to make a decision on his future. Manchester United are willing to let the fullback go for around £50 million. West Ham are trying to do a deal for around 10. So I'll imagine both clubs will probably meet in the middle and agree a fee, and then it'll come down to what Wan-Bissaka wants to do. For me, I think he'd be a good signing for West Ham. He's one of the best markers in the game, tacklers and everything else. Obviously, he's not maybe the best going forward. When you need to be as a modern-day fullback, you need to offer something in the final third of the pitch, and that's probably something he could improve on. But if you give him a job to mark somebody, he's one of the best around, I think, for me. But for West Ham, yeah, it'd be a good addition. It's just whether they can convince Wan-Bissaka to make the move back down to London, convince him of their ambition, because the player himself maybe has other ideas and is waiting to see what else is out there in the market. And I'm sure Manchester United would be willing to let him move on, because obviously they're trying to sign right back targets of their own, and they're in for Mazraoui from Bayern Munich. Talks are ongoing in that one. So until Wan-Bissaka moves on, that Mazraoui deal is on hold as well. But yeah, West Ham obviously trying to make moves in the transfer market, but it's just whether they can convince the player to make the move to the London Stadium.
And Paul, to wrap up on West Ham, we know there's been some interest in free agent Sergi Roberto, former Barcelona player. Do you think he'd be a good signing under Lopetegui?
No-brainer, isn't it? I mean, 32 years old, over 250 games for Barcelona. Defensive midfield, can play fullback. In a similar vein, when I was at Blackburn, Michel Salgado came over. I mean, it was a real coup that Sam Allardyce did, bringing that type of player across. but Roberto's got the experience, the leadership in the dressing room, and the quality that he brings as well. I mean, he's not going to play every game. He's not going to start every game week in and week out. He's not going to play 2 or 3 games a week. But actually to have that type of player in the squad at your disposal, the manager will clearly have a relationship with him and in a coaching vein. So it's almost like putting another manager into the dressing room, putting a coach in amongst your team, as well as adding a quality player to your squad. So if West Ham can bring a player like that in, it would be a really good signing for them, I feel.
You've just watched a segment from Football Insider's brand new podcast, The Inside Track, with me, Lewis Pearce, alongside the guests on the show. Thanks very much for tuning in. Please do give the video a like, comment your thoughts on the topic, and feel free to share on your social media pages. If you want to listen to the full podcast episode, click the link in the description below. Keep your eyes peeled for plenty more content and exclusives here on The Inside Track.